Councillors, I open this our ordinary meeting for the month of September. To repeat myself again with our opening prayer, we give thanks for the contribution by pioneers, early settlers, to those who fought in various wars. The fabric of Tenterfield community we have today. By the words of our mouths and meditation of our hearts be accepted in thy sight, O Lord. Amen. In acknowledgement of the country, I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of this land that we're meeting on today. I'd also like to pay respect to the elders, both past and present, of the Tjapapa, Kamilaroi and Bundjalung nations, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal people present. No apologies, councillors, we're all present. Disclosures and declarations of interest. Councillor McNish.
You have one for Ian, the 18/17, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Just give the name.
Yep. Present that. Yep. Councillor Roman.
I'm just trying to find the number, the one on grids.
On grids.
Yeah.
Yep.
Non-community was still
Yep.
has grids.
You need to fill in a form at the end of that, Councillor. So we have there's one from Councillor McNish, and he's declared an interest in the item. Councillor Rollins, is declaring non-pecuniary.
Do you have one in there like that boxes?
Well, Councillor, it goes the old saying, I mean, if you're in doubt, declare.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And it's deeper than that, in doubt, get out. So all in favour of accepting those disclosures and declarations of interest, councillors? Against? Carried. Councillors, confirmation of the minutes. We have two confirmations, we'll do them together with approval of the meeting. We have an ordinary council meeting Wednesday, 23rd of August, 2017, and extraordinary council meeting Tuesday, the 5th of September, 2017. Would someone who was in attendance at that meeting like to move that this passed as a true and correct record, please? Councillor Mike Petrie, thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Bronwyn Petrie, I thank you. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, tabling the documents. Councillors, I had a briefing with the RFS this morning to do with Mr. Chris Warbridge to do with the current situation of fires in our shire. It's a good meeting, and I'll elaborate on that when we get later on the meeting. I'd like to table a map which is handed to me to be given to all our councillors so you're aware of where the fires are and what status they are. And I would ask that with this statement of this document, that Andre, our senior service executive, he'll add to this and talk on the section 44 when he does his report too. Are you happy with that? Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Councillor Berry. Councillors, there's no urgent, late and supplementary items of business? No? Community consultation, councillors, we do have at 11:15, we do have a presentation to give to Mr. Roger Fry from Westpac Lifesaver Rescue Helicopter. Roger will be here at that time, so we'll probably keep going along and have fun around there. Is everybody agreeable with that? And Roger will give a brief presentation. Councillor, yes?
I just wondering, can we have an update on the solar visit?
On the,
Solar visit?
well, at another meeting or
I'm getting
workshop. By all means, yeah.
Yeah, just update people when
Yeah, of course. We might try and work that into a report somewhere, councillor, because we've all got the information. I can go and get it. Did you get any correspondence to do with that?
only the invitation.
Yeah. Okay. Done. We'll
No,
work
it's
that.
legal
Yeah.
to verbal.
Andre, correct me if I'm wrong, you attended that briefing, didn't you? And are you happy to, in your report to me? Yeah. Thanks, councillor. Councillor, we do have I do have a real meeting. Councillors, the month of September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, an opportunity to raise public consensus of the disease that kills more Australian children than any other. To honour the many families affected by childhood cancer, the Tenterfield Shire Council fully support this campaign in the month of September. Councillors, we do have a yellow ribbon on your desk, and I would ask that all councillors wear that, and I thank you for wearing that. It is an important time, because there's no one in the community or in our area that wouldn't know someone or be affected in that way. And hopefully that what I'd like to do later on today is get a photo for the media showing that we are supporting this. So I'll put that forward as my memorable minute. Thank you. You fixed it? Recommendations for items to be considered in the confidential part of our meeting. No confidential, open council reports. Councillors, move on to the start of our agenda. It's page 7. It's item COM 8/17. No, I'm moving a second here to deal with this, please. Councillor McNish, I thank you. Second, please. Councillor Murray, thank you. And I hand over to our acting Chief Executive, Colin.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So I've provided a report there on what's going on in the Chief Corporate section. For your information, I'm more than happy to take any questions on that report, should you.
Councillors, the report's there in front of you to receive and note. Any questions to our acting CEO? No? Sorry, Councillor McNish.
Not a question, Mr Mayor, just a comment. I'd like to just commend the staff on that Tenterfield In Touch. It comes out on the computer. The other day I looked at it. It's a wonderful thing. There's a lot of work goes into that. And I think for someone just coming to town, it would be an invaluable resource to see what goes on, what's available in the town, what organisations there are, and everything else. And I'm not very impressed by it. I'd like to commend the staff for putting that together. I know a lot of work goes into it. And once again, my congratulations on that report.
Thank you, Councillor. Those comments are taken on board, and they're good comments and true, because it is a good for our information, and I fully support your comments. The Councillor, Robert Peter.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd also like to congratulate staff on the fact that there's still no lost time due to workplace injuries, and then the opportunity to go without lost time injury.
Thank you, Councillor, for noting that. Councillor Berry?
Just a comment, Mr Mayor. I just wonder if it'd be any help at all to advertise what's going on in our neighbouring shires on economic development. Just recently, there was a talk of one of the tissue manufacturers relocating to Warwick. Now that'll provide significant employment in that area, in the north of our shire, and I just think it would help sell our shire too, seeing some of these economic developments happening bigger, not little things. I just thought it would be big picture. I'm not sure any use to it.
I'm sure that those comments will be taken on board, Councillor, and they're good. What was it, a tissue manufacturer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Well, these are the ones we've got banned. Thanks, Councillor. Sorry, Colin.
Sorry, and just as an item of late news, on page 7, you'll notice that community development staff actually submitted the Live on Locals Strategic Initiative grant application, and I'm pleased that the announcement only came through on the 26th, that along with Orange, Newcastle, Tweed, Wonga, Kensington, Armadale and Mudgee, Tenterfield 2 will be included in that program. That's to the value of about $19,000 of the $150,000 funding.
Outstanding. That's fantastic. Really, really good. Councillors, any more questions, comments to do with this report to Colin? No? All happy to receive the note? All in favour? Against? Councillors, we move on to page 13. Item COM 9/17 to deal with the Leadlight Main Street enhancement. I've moved in a second to deal with this item. Councillor Greg Sawyer, thank you. Second, please, Councillor Bob Rogan. Thank you. And once again, I'll hand over to our Chief Operating Officer. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and Councillors. At the last council meeting, there was a notice of motion pertaining to the perhaps the beautification, if we can use that word, beautification of our Main Street and park, public park, Broxton Park, by the use of lighting. This is something that has been done in a number of places within Australia and overseas, and there was a requirement to bring a report back to this meeting of council just on the options and the costs. This is what this report's all about. I've provided you some indicative cost there, whilst you might question the cost and say, yes, can't we do it cheaper? The reality is you get what you pay for. So I've just asked councillors to keep that in mind going forward when you ask us to go down the path of, putting into place whatever, because ultimately, if we buy it really cheap and nasty stuff, at the end of the day, we will pay a price in terms of labour and maintenance and replacement. So I commend the report to you as is.
Councillors, questions to Andre to do with the report?
Yes.
Councillor Bob Rogan?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Andre, firstly, could I say that the actual report was very comprehensive and well done, so congratulations on that. I've just got a question on the budget, if I could.
Yes.
$8,000 for the park and another $3,000 later on, so I understand that correctly. And you mentioned that might be sort of using up the Christmas budget. So how much was that Christmas budget, and is that going to have an effect on Christmas decorations? I understand these are going in the park in particular might look like Christmas decorations at the time, but is that all there's going to be in the park on Christmas time? Because in the last couple of years, Christmas tree decorations, I've received some comments about that, weren't really what you call spectacular.
Yeah, Councillor, look, the total budget that council have available for Christmas decorations is $8,000. So part of what was in the last notice of motion was to use possibly that as a source of funding to bring into being something that lasts a little bit longer than, a month, right? Which is what Christmas decorations in the past have been traditionally around for a month, and then it's a case of falling down. If you put the right LED facilities up, then those facilities should last for a good period of time, whether it's 2 years, whether it's 4 years, it depends on the quality of installation, depends on the environment that they're operating in. So, but the long and the short of it, at this point in time, as we've got $8,000, I'm signalling to you, if you're going to start doing anything, let's perhaps focus on Brixton Park, and let's take some feedback from the public thereafter as to how they like that before we launch into spending a whole lot more money on Main Street.
Thank you, Andre, and thank you for your question, Councillor Rogan. Councillor Berry, yes?
I thinking about moving amendment to this, because we've got 6 or 7 villages. One of the questions the Mayor and I get regularly asked is why don't we get something at Urbanville? As in bunting and flags, Christmas decorations. So I'm happy to go on with the Bruxton Park for this year, but I think for the future we should be looking at villages as well with Christmas decorations. So I'm just wondering whether I should move a motion now or leave that to an amendment now or leave that till later.
If I can help you, Councillor, and I'll be held down by our senior staff, the way I see that, and with plenty of merit. With our villages, and we've always said, there isn't more important than our CBD and our Main Street. It was something that I could see that we need to deal with when we deal with our budget. So there needs to be money in a budget to do that. Correct me if I'm wrong, with Kyle and Andre, that would be a time to bring it up. I fully support it, and that we deal with it then as it goes forward. But I'm not, don't let me change your point to do something today, but I think that's the appropriate time to deal with that. Fully support it.
Yeah. I was only just going to flag the idea for the budget because, as Andre said, we've got $8,000 there and that'll go to Bruxton Park, I was thinking more for next year.
Cole, can I turn any advice on what I've just said?
We will be undertaking, or we've applied for grant funding for the Vibrant Village ones and the community funding, so there's probably an opportunity for further conversation and work out the costings. That'll be probably the first hurdle, I guess, is to liaise with those communities about what would be appropriate and then to apply the appropriate costings to those plans moving forward.
Councillor Bronwyn Petrie?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. A question to Andre and one to Councillor Sawyer. I'm just wondering, Andre, of the 2 photos, were you looking at the more denser lighting or the more spaced out lighting?
And Councillor, I would be looking at the more denser lighting because at the end of the day in Bruxton Park, as you well appreciate, you've got a number of lights already there that's going to increase the amount of visible light. So if these lighting obviously to be noticeable.
And my question to Councillor Sweat, is that similar to what you had seen there, Pam? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All questions to Andre to do with the report, councillors? Before I put it to the vote, councillor, is a recommendation. I do commend you, Councillor Sawyer, with that similar to bring this forward to the council meetings as a councillor should, and it was fully supported, and that's how council should do. So I do thank you with that notice of motion a month or two ago, and thanks to the council with our staff for coming back and speeding report and to support Councillor Reagan's comments. We do have what I feel is a very good budget there to do with the ongoing development of this, so we can all refer back to. And I do think and your staff are putting the time into that. But fully support the recommendation that we do Brookston Park and get it up and running and get some community feedback. So, councillors, all in favour of the recommendation? Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay, councillors, we move on to page 17 in your hard copies. Item EC 024/17. It's your August 2017 Infrastructure Engineering Planning and Service Update. Kind of move in a second here, please, to deal with this. Councillor Murray, thank you. Seconded by Councillor McNish, and I thank you. And I'll hand over to Chief Operating Officer Andre.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. Councillors, you'll be aware this is an ongoing report that I bring to your attention. It's an opportunity for you to understand what is happening in and around the region. So it is what it is, and it gives you a bit of a pictorial overview. So I'm happy to take questions on that in a moment. There was two other things that have just been brought up a little while ago. One was the section 44 pertaining to fires that are in our region, and the other one was the solar project that Councillor Bromley asked about. I'll talk to section 44 to start with. As I indicated in an email that I flicked around to you last night, what section 44 is, it relates to the Rural Fires Act 1997. Basically, the Commissioner for the Fire Services has the opportunity under section 44 of that Act to effectively declare a situation where they can have expedited procurement of resources and basically marshal a whole lot of activity to fight what effectively is an emergency. Now, if you look at what's happening around the state, I can only sort of speak more particularly to our region. Just in our shire, there are 8 fires at this point in time. If you look at the Rural Fire Service Fires Near Me app, you'll see that there's around 5 fires up around, Urbanville. There's 2 south Sandy Flat area, I think it is, and 1 around Ewinga. So at this point in time, that declaration was declared yesterday. I was told by the regional emergency management officer down at Tamworth that is the case. I'm yet to receive the paperwork, but that said, basically the situation is now that from now on, I can get a call at any time, or council can get a call at any time to release resources, whether it be graders, dozers, whatever, to assist the Rural Fire Service. And the one good thing about a Section 44 declaration is that providing we take note of the expenditure and track that expenditure later on, we can claim that expenditure back through the NADRA process. That's the National Disaster Relief and Recovery Arrangement that is in place. So that's the good news. Let's hope going forward that we get on top of these fires relatively quickly, and I'm sure Council will lend whatever support it needs to the fire service. With regards to the solar project, I'm just going from memory now, Bronwyn. On attending that meeting, I came into that presentation, which was just more of an information session by this group. I forget the name of the company, so forgive me on that. I remember the details about the project, but basically this is a 300 kilowatt solar farm that is being developed out close to Inverell, just adjacent to the Brookston Way. And this project apparently has a 2-year time frame from memory. They're at the stage right now where they're looking to go into getting their approvals from an environment point of view. The project has, as I understand, a 30-year life. They are looking to, and when I say a 30-year life, potentially could go longer, but their initial power agreement for selling that power to the state, which underpins the project, that is for a 30-year period. So basically, at this point in time, they have an option to buy the land. I think there's about 120 hectares of land from memory that is going to be under coverage of solar panels, and this land, they can either buy this land outright or they can lease the land. But the bottom line is that at the end of the period, if they buy the land, they've got to return the land back to its pre-development condition. So basically, it has to be returned back to an arable arrangement. So that's where the project's currently at. Apparently, it will deliver long-term, maybe 6 jobs for maintenance purposes, but there's going to be quite a few resources from our Inverell, perhaps Tenterfield even, where trades and the like will have the opportunity to come in and provide a service to that project. So I suppose that is good from a regional perspective to see that going ahead. It's just another one of those developments that certainly brings medium-term opportunity to people in the area. That's the summary of that.
Councillor, I can get you a copy of the brief that was given by Ross last that day, and as the meeting goes on today, I'll make sure we get that. It was very good. Can I just, Andre, thank you very much, because you've dealt with you made a good politician, you've dealt with 2 things just on the hop, and you've done a really, really good job. So thank you. So to do with the councillors, just with the brief, I'm really pleased that I had a briefing with the RFS early this morning, and I can share with everybody that they're been going pretty hard with these fires. They noted that the National Parks and the Forestry are working very hard with them. So I'm very pleased about that, because that can always sometimes be an issue. But Chris tells me that they've been working really well together. So it was a good briefing and an update. And Andre, thank you, because it's important as council that we know what Section 44 means. For asked by the public or even asked about the fires. So councillors, I hope you do appreciate that briefing on short notice, and it's for your information, basically. So, thanks. Councillors, with the report, is there any questions, Andre, to do with the whole report? Councillor Berry.
Couple of questions for you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
The September 29th date for the sealing of the Mount Lindsay, is that still current, Andre? It looks as though it's on track to me.
Did you travel this morning, Councillor?
Yes, Councillor, my understanding is that road is going to be sealed this week.
That's good. And the other one is Beery Creek, it's not Beery Creek, Wallaby Creek Bridge. Have we got a guesstimate when that's going to be finished? Well, that's it's not a big topic at the moment, the other bridge is a bigger topic.
Yeah, look, Councillor, each time I talk to my crews, I get how to say, an answer that sort of is pushed back a little bit in time, regrettably, and it has everything to do with procurement. As you would know, the bridge itself has reached a stage where technically it could be open to traffic, right? We have had a traffic study done on the implications of those speeds and whether guardrail is absolutely needed. I have a view that there's a couple of things that physically got to be done to that bridge to tie the structure together as an absolute minimum. Now that is something that could take around a month to sort. We're at the stage of just making sure that we get pricing for the guardrailing that is being envisaged for the deck. But that said, if that guardrailing comes in way too expensive, which I'm half expecting it might, right? If push comes to shove, the council has to find an extra $75,000 to $100,000 to put guardrail on that structure. What I'll be suggesting is that we don't put guardrail on it, that it's wide enough to not have rail on it, that we appropriately signpost it and we put some stripes on it to make sure that it's traffic treated as a single lane bridge, and then you don't need any railing whatsoever. Right, so I understand it was a single lane structure in the past, so it's not as if people are going to be given any sort of lesser service. So look, in a nutshell, I'm hopeful that we can try and get this open in the next 1 to 2 months.
the other question is about fire with the section 44, with taking their machinery down there. Some private operators wouldn't take their machinery down there initially because of the terrain and the damage liable to the machinery. If we constrict the same parameters as private enterprise on that, or we just go whole as far as direct machinery?
No, we don't go whole as far as direct machinery. We have a number of graders in our fleet at the present time that are subcontractors providing service to us. If they don't wish to be a part of this process and have their machinery used in that circumstance, they are not obliged to do that. I don't believe they can be compelled to do that. Right? It's just that council, with its machinery, we can be compelled to make available resources. Right? But that said, you're not in the business of running around putting people in danger or spiking tyres or damaging equipment. So we would be suggesting to our people to apply the same amount of due diligence that you would otherwise operating that machinery, nothing more.
I'll go to Councillor Murray, I'll come back to you, Councillor Bond. Councillor Murray.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question is to Andre here. The August 23 meeting, there was a request for landmarking to be reinstated on Mount Mackenzie Road. And I note in this report that there's no mention of it yet again. This has been an ongoing situation for 2 years now. I'm wondering what has happened here.
Councillor, that's coming from the Roads and Traffic Committee, mate.
Yes, it came through council, and council was to investigate if this warranted money. I'm still listening.
Okay, Councillor, I'll have to just take that one on notice and go back and just check the background of it. It's probably one of those things in amongst the myriad of things that I'm dealing with at the present time. It is not something that I've turned my attention to at this point in time. It's not that it's been lost, but that said, there's a number of things when it comes to line marking. Generally, dare I say, in this shire, there are places where there is line marking, right? And generally, we would only put a set of line marking, right, in places where there is a safety issue, like side distance or over crests or that sort of thing. There's a little bit of a history there. By and large, I would be suggesting that this shire be like a lot of other broad shires where they don't go to the end of the line marking, they let the traffic have the road and people drive in conditions, and then you get a better life out of your road asset. People just drive to the conditions in a nutshell.
If I may, there has been at least, my knowledge, 3 dings on that road, minor dings on that road so far, me being one of them. And it has to do with the demarcation line not available on the, I know this is difficult for you to understand because you probably don't know the terrain. Coming out of Gunflat Road onto Mount Mackenzie Road, and the view is completely blocked. They've almost got to enter onto Mount Mackenzie Road to see what's happening. That's where I have my view. And I've listed rather 2 now. None of these are reported to my knowledge. During the snow, there was something like 500 vehicles per hour passing on that road. And I guess we'll have snow again. I mean, this has been going on since years. And I have to stress that when the tourists drive up and down, that's predominantly used by tourists and cyclists. And they're looking at the landscape. And there needs some discipline there to say, well, there's a demarcation line there somewhere. We'll abide by that.
Councillor, if I can, before Andre, not cutting you out, mate, but I do support you with the concerns there. It has been the Roads and Traffic Committee meeting. Please respect Andre with the workload that he's got. I don't know why that it's not there. I fully support that happening. It is advertised to support, which you just said, as a administrator, up through Mount Mackenzie. And it's a jewel in the crown of our shire. So we will get there, but we need to go back to the Roads and Traffic Committee meeting, talk about it again. I'm happy for you to bring that forward. to be discussed again, and we'll get it there. Okay, so thank you. Councillor Bronwyn Pedro.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Andre, I was just wondering if you could expand on the community recycling centre and how that will operate. I think it's very close to be, expected to be in operation by the end of September. The other thing I was interested in is, are we getting much graffiti in the public toilets? I see here that Parks and Gardens have had to remove graffiti. I still don't understand why we're doing classical fever weed control at the Rockyville when I don't believe it occurs in the road reserve. And I was wondering what the issue is with the Patterson's Road Reserve. I thought that was all, like when it came to council, I thought it was all fairly well covered off, but now seems to be an issue about whether the road could be closed or not. And I'm happy to do one by one. Oh, and so the other thing, just with fires and our operators, if we get a fire and you've got a dozer standing there, if they're not authorised under the registration of the RFS, you cannot put that dozer to work there or anything. So you've got to wait till they get one of their contractors in who've done all their ticks and balance ticks, etc. So are our operators authorised to act within these areas? It might be something we need to change up with Chris, because I've had to expose council or our operators to some sort of liability if they do not meet the RFS and all conditions, especially when they're compelling us to provide them.
Okay, Councillor, your first query with regards to the community recycling centre, you will be aware that we received some money to help put this facility in place, and it's my understanding that there's an agreement afoot that we basically need to sign up to, and that'll probably be in the next couple of days. That's with EPA. It does a couple of things. One, it helps educate the community going forward in terms of recycling, and they'll actually pay us a certain amount of money to do that through what they call it, the Inland Regional Waste Group that we're a part of. There is a move afoot to sort of try and get this education of the communities centralised. So there will be some money that comes out of this agreement to help educate the community, and also there will be some, basically the EPA will be facilitating the picking up of some of these recycled goods, whether they be batteries or whatever. So look, this is early days in terms of getting this facility up and running. Just the timing of it and sort of how it will be rolled out. Obviously there's going to have to be some sort of a media release there, some sort of an education program to advise the community, and dare I say we'll be working very much with Inland Regional Waste Group to have that coordinated so that we're not acting alone, we're not sort of acting outside of the norms of the expectations for the operation of these sort of facilities. So we're talking a couple of months away, as I understand, for it to be properly rolled out. But obviously, it's a case of watch this space. Yes. With regards to the other couple of issues you raised about Patterson's Road Reserve and sort of work around Rocky River, I'd have to take those comments on notice, talk to you perhaps after the meeting as to the extent of your concerns, and actually take up with the individual officer as to what is really going on there. With some of these reports, particularly with regards to the trees that are applied, what we do is I get them to give me just an overview of what is going on. It's not to forensically interrogate them as to sort of what, why, where, for, etc. So I can certainly go into a bit more detail if I can get a bit more detail after the meeting.
Oh, and the graffiti, do we get much graffiti damage?
Graffiti, look, I'm not aware of a lot. Since my coming to town in May, I've seen graffiti in one location, and that was on up around the council chambers here on one of the, I think it might have been just around the corner from the car park, on one of what appears to be a power facility box. Other than that, like you go around to the facilities, the parks, I mean, I haven't seen any, and actually it's a credit to the town that, you know, you have that level of buy-in from the community and that community pride.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillors, any more questions to Honourable Councillor McNish?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is about the Tenterfield Blackwater dump point at the showground. I've had several conversations with Shadow Society representatives.
Trust, Councillor.
Trust, sorry, Showground Trust. They're not happy with what's going on over there. They're not happy with council's response at this stage. I was wondering, Mr. Mayor, if I could just move a motion that we get a full report on this for the next council meeting, as well as extend an invitation to members of the Showground Trust to address council and put their side of the argument forward.
Councillor, I've no problems with your question there, Councillor. I'll go to call you for a bit of meeting procedure there, because this is this is to receive a note. So this is a report, Councillor. So I'm trying to help you there, so just bear with me. So, Colin.
So I think that the preferred way to handle this is a notice of motion, that a report be prepared by staff and presented back to council at that particular time.
I can do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor McGinnis. Thanks, Colin.
That's only
Advice. Thank you. Yep.
Sorry, another one, Mr. Mayor. On the ranger patrols, I notice here that loading zones, bus zones, school zones, time parking, etc. are being patrolled. No infringement notices. I've had several complaints from business owners down between the Molesworth and High Street about restaurateurs, shop owners, tyre place owners, hairdressers parking there in a 2-hour zone all day. This has been going on for quite a long time, and obviously it hasn't been patrolled like it says it has been here. So I was wondering if Foundation might look into that, and I don't say book people, but just let them know that it is only a 2-hour parking limit down there.
Noted, Councillor.
Oh, sorry, was I on then or not?
Yeah, you were, Councillor.
Okay, sorry, yeah, good reminds me to.
So, Councillors, any more questions to Honourable to do with the report? You've had a pretty good thing, Councillor Brown. One question?
Thank you. Just regarding procurement, we did have a tender that fell over with a truck that didn't meet the specs. I was just wondering what was happening with that. I see we've got the new backhoe and the staff had the induction, etc., which is great to see. But I was just wondering where we were up to with that other truck that we were going to get some oil on, but it fell over.
So, Councillor, my understanding was that we were going back out to tender for that truck, and that's a combination truck from memory, crane and further else side back in tipping. But that we will go back out to tender because there were problems with the previous contract. Now, that said, I have provided feedback as to what changes were needed in the contract. I'd have to just chase up with my acting manager down there at Fleet to see where that is actually at in terms of process.
No more questions, Councillor. Before we sign off on this one, and I mean this from all our council, Andre, when you come into a job and you haven't been in the job all that long, with everything that's going on in our shire and the things that throw their head up on a daily basis, I commend you on the job you've been doing, especially with the Wallaby Creek Bridge. It has been a comedy of bloody errors, and I fully support you in every effort you make to get the best of a bad situation happening there. And as Mayor, I've been embarrassed about how that's gone. I say that with respect to our previous engineers. They probably tried to do their best, but for whatever reason, it just hasn't been good. But I commend you on the way you've handled it and to come out with the best situation we can. I know we'll have a good result at the end of the day, but we all need to learn from that. And as a council and as reports that are given us as councillors to vote on, it's so important that we get the correct information to make a correct decision on the day to be supportive of our staff. But I do commend you and thank you very much for a detailed report. Councillors, the report's there, there's no more questions. All in favour to receive a note? Against? Carried. Councillors, what I'd like to do, Mr. Roger Fry from the Westpac Helicopter has arrived. If we can go back to our briefing session, Roger's got a bit of a presentation, but what I'd like to do first, we have our chat to present. because council fully supports the Westpac helicopter, and I'd like to get a photo with all of us presenting this to Roger, if you don't mind, and then he'll give us our presentation. Roger, does that suit you?
That's fine.
Right away.
Come on, through, fellas.
So if you'd like to come forward, and councillors, please stand and welcome Mr. Roger Guy to our chamber.
Thank you. Hang on a bit further.
Come forward, Roger.
Okay.
Roger, on behalf of council, I'd like to congratulate your organisation for the wonderful job that you do right across the area, and you know how strong Tenterfield is with our support of the service. Great to see the new choppers up and flying and doing a wonderful service, and this is a cheque from our council.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And, and I got to say also, thanks to the community of Tenterfield, they're fantastic supporters of the service. It's a small community and do wonderful.
Just quickly, if you don't mind, councillors, can we all have a photo with Roger somehow, with our yellow ribbons on? Before I start, Roger, what I do want to know, Roger came through the other day and I met with him. I asked him to come back today and to present in front of all the council, because one thing, councillors, that we can't say that we don't get is information supply. It is important that once again, how important the Westpac helicopter is to our community. This council is a major sponsor of the donator to this service. So Roger, thank you for allowing the time today to come back and present in front of council.
No problem. Do I need to use this? I'll be right.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah. Okay, no, thank you very much, councillors. Thank you, Mayor, for inviting us along. And again, similar to what you presented us this morning, the cheque is a fantastic gift to the service. And we do get massive support by the Tenterfield crowd. We're going to be coming through here shortly on the Hell on Wheels. I was only talking to some of our op shop staff this morning, and they're going to be entertaining us in a couple of weeks' time on one of the mad riders that have decided to ride from Lightning Ridge to Lismore, and hopefully I'll make it to Tenterfield for a rest day. But what I want to just present today is this the new concept of the Westpac helicopter and how we're actually coordinated through Newcastle. It was a part of a health department initiative that started back in 2011 when they decided to do a massive review of all aeromedical services statewide, mainly helicopters. And what they wanted to do was have basically 2 operators in the entire state. At that point in time, there was up to 4 operators doing the same work statewide. Obviously, we were separate to Newcastle in our Lismore operation. They did operate Tamworth as well as the one service. But as part of the whole process, they wanted an operator north of Hawkesbury River through to the Queensland border. And then they wanted a separate operator south of Hawkesbury River through to the Victorian border. They now have that in place. There's 12 aircraft identical to this. Again, go back in 2011, even go back 8 months ago, there was about 5 different types of helicopters operating in this state doing the same type of work, which meant that every helicopter was different, every procedure was different, the medical teams were all operating differently, they were equipped differently, they had different ranges and all the rest of so forth. So basically this aircraft has been built from the ground up to have basically the same equipment inside the aircraft. The only difference with our counterparts in the south, it's a commercial operation. Up here we're a not-for-profit charity service, and we're still seeking support of nearly 30% of our operating costs from the north, from the Hawkesbury River right through to the border. There's 8 aircraft in the south and there's 4 in the north. There's 1 at each operational base. The base is now at Belmont, Tamworth and Lismore. The head office is Broadmeadow and the main heavy maintenance facility is Broadmeadow. Now this has come about as a result of the Newcastle service. They went for the contract up against a lot of international companies, and they won it over the other international companies based on the fact that we had fantastic community support. The government certainly liked the idea of that, and they retained us, given that they've got a 40-year history of operating in their region, and we have a 35-year history coming up this December of operating in this region. So historically, they saw value in the Westpac brand and the Westpac service. So we are here today now, and basically this aircraft, you'll have the same aircraft, same colour scheme, wander around the actual region, the 1 at each base and 1 as a spare. The only subtle differences is really the logos and the tail booms, which when a new aircraft turns up here, we quickly change those logos over. So again, there's differences down south with their sponsorship, and so we need to make sure that's changed up here. That's basically the only difference. So medical team wise, A medical team can actually come out of Newcastle and fly in Lismore, no problem. The aircraft is identical. This is something we couldn't do before. Doesn't quite happen the same with coming out of the Sydney area up to our service, but the likelihood of that happening is pretty low. But we can move all our medical team members and our flight crew around the whole north part of the state to different bases, but they'll operate exactly the same airframe. And that cuts down on time, but also assist in the training and development of everybody that works on board the aircraft. So the history of the service locally here is obviously back in '82, and then it just flows through to where we are today. And certainly in these last couple of years, the old service was looking at replacing the aircraft up until the review started, and then things started going a different direction at that point in time. So the aircraft that we have since sold on, they were nearly 25 years of age. This contract called for aircraft no older than 4 years of age. But essentially what's happened now is we've bought all brand new aircraft and they're actually leased. No longer do we own the aircraft. It's not dissimilar to the way Qantas, Virgin, Jetstar, they all operate the same. No one actually owns an aircraft. And we've gone down the same path because these aircraft are worth off the production line about 16 to 18 mil, and then we had to spend another couple of mil to set them up for EMS operations. We still have a board of 10 directors. There is going to be representation locally here, which is further down the page on this presentation, the RAC, the Regional Advisory Committee, and a member of that committee. There will be one set up in Lismore and Belmont. There is already one existing and has been operating for nearly 12 years in Tamworth. One member of that board will be representing this region on the main Westpac helicopter board down in Newcastle. They are looking like reducing some of those 10 directors down to 7, and then use some of the members from the committees to actually also bolster the current board. So there is a bit of a fairness across each of the regions, that there is some representation on the main board. Again, not much has changed in our call-outs 24/7. At the moment, our aircraft locally here is down at Glenray attending a log truck accident. Driver was trapped. They're moving that patient on to Coffs Harbour Hospital. But combined now, we're doing about 1,500 missions a year between the 3 bases. And we still do the same type of work. We're still the same service. We're still a charity and not for profit. No one gets charged for being recovered by our service. Still 24 hours, as said, and we still do the same work that we've done previously, and none of that sort of changed. We still work closely with our paramedics and doctors, and the actual bases now are stations for the ambulance service. So no longer do the officers actually respond from the local station. Our base is their station. So 5 officers have been trained and dedicated to helicopter operations only. And we have a core number of doctors that actually come and do part of the ED registry line of professional studies with us. They're with us for about 6 months. We also get 8 consultants from the local Lismore-based trauma hospital, also filling the gaps. So essentially we've got about 10 to 11 doctors available 24/7, along with the 5 paramedics on a rotating roster. So the combination of the medical teams on board now, anytime we fly, it's obviously a pilot, crew member, a doctor and a paramedic every time we go on the job. Again, it's just showing some of the personnel from down south, as well as this is the opening of the base at Belmont. And the bases are basically ours and Belmont are fairly identical in their design and layout. Tamworth already had quite a substantial base. They just had some modifications carried out in their base to make it reach the standard that the health department was seeking for this current 10-year contract. That's the region as we see it now. That's the area that we actually cover, the 3 bases. So it's quite vast, and again, we're interchangeable. The aircraft can move around from base to base, and so can the flight crew. And we also have to cover about, in our patch alone, we have to cover also about 40,000 square kilometres of ocean. And so we actually cover from Hawkesbury River right up to the Queensland border with about 100 nautical miles out to sea. This is the new aircraft, the AW139, built in Italy. All the engineers and pilots were able to go over last year to develop some of their skills and the training that was necessary. Particularly the engineers spent 8 weeks over there, Not because they probably learn a bit slower than the pilots, there's a lot more involved for them. It's a fully glass cockpit screen. It has meant an increase of some of our staff. Our base alone's climbed from 28 staff. We've got up to about 30, but overall now there's 130 members in this whole service now, because there's a lot more work to be done on these airframes, keeping up because of their technology. The reason we went down this path, these aircraft are safer. That's probably the main benefit, and they do come with a trauma team on board. So when they land at the scene of an accident like today, they're down there at that accident at Glenray, the back of the aircraft is actually set up like an ED department. So one of the things that we've been saying to the police and RMS is that the scene time could be extended because they're actually probably performing more invasive care on the patient than we did in the past. It wasn't unusual in the past that the aim was to grab someone off the side of the road and get them to the nearest trauma hospital within an hour. The survival rate would be increased if we're able to do that. What's happening now though is because we have the doctors and a lot more medical equipment on board, we're actually performing that invasive care on the side of the road before getting into a trauma hospital. There's only 3 trauma hospitals in our region, that's Coffs Harbour, Lismore and Tweed Heads. So this has been a benefit to the actual patients as well. When I say the aircraft's safer, it basically is based on the fact that it can fly and hover on one engine. The previous aircraft, a lot of older aircraft didn't have the capability of doing that. So when we had a critical moment in the phase of flight, landing on top of a building in the hospital in the middle of a city, or even on a small pad out in the bush, if we lost an engine at that critical moment, things were going to get pretty ugly pretty quickly. This aircraft actually does have the capability of shutting one engine down and then spooling up the other one to actually keep us in flight. So it's an increase in safety. And that's when everybody on, that's a full all-up weight load. That's something old aircraft couldn't do. Again, it's something the health department was seeking to make sure that we had increased safety margins. Not a lot's changed. We do have the extra requirement of bariatric stretcher carriage now. There was a limitation previously of about 160 a kg for a patient. We're now up to 230. That's not been unusual. I've been at jobs myself. I spent 21 years flying these aircraft locally here, but now I've since changed roles. And I have come across cases where we just couldn't move the patient off the side of the road because we didn't have the physical capability to transport. We now are able to and expected to carry heavier weights. What we don't do, we do have neonatal incubator there, but really we don't have the teams locally in Lismore to do that. We're still reliant on the Brisbane counterparts that come down with their retrieval teams to do that type of work, but we are capable of carrying that type of equipment as long as we have the personnel. So you can see there's a lot more extensive equipment. If you saw the previous list, there is a lot more involved now. We can actually do scanning on the side of the road as well, see where there's internal bleeds and so forth. This one's just on showing where we actually get a lot of our funding, and we can let you read through that. So payroll is still significant to us, even though we've had during the transition between our service and Hunter service, we had to actually engage all our payroll supporters to understand that they were moving from one service to another. That meant a change of ABN. Our charitable fundraising number had to be changed as well. And as a consequence of that, we did lose nearly 50% of our support, which was with those letters. The letters had to go out as part of the transition, and a lot of people elected not to re-sign. But we did bank on the fact that that was probably going to happen, particularly where people may have been contributing to our service for 10, 15, 20 years and probably never realised they were. And when they received the letters in the mail, some of the letters weren't returned to us. So it's something we have to work on now and rebuild. Corporate sponsorship still high. The events approving always challenging. As we say with Hell on Wheels, we're about to do that event, but they're not. They're very time consuming and labour intensive. A lot of events now, and lots of charities are doing them. As you know, there's a lot of adventure ones out there that we try to compete with. The same with the ride. There's riding ones happening all the time. So it's always a challenge trying to find new ways to raise funds. Hence the reason the RAC is part of that process, to try and give us some guidance what's going to work in certain communities. And the RAC will need to be represented from our entire flight area, which is from Tweed Heads to Nambucca and out to Tenterfield and Glen Innes. So we are seeking people from those regions to give us guidance as to what might work and what may not work in your region. So that's part of that community partnership that we need to seek. That's just a quick overview of equipment, and we go through 400 litres of fuel an hour. to run these aircraft, so it's a fair bit. That's just a rough cost of what it's going to cost to run these aircraft. And these aircraft in the future, they're because they're all come off the production line pretty much the same time. About 2019, 2021, they will be coming under heavy maintenance, which requires an aircraft to be offline for about 4 months. And it's anything up to $1 million maintenance program. Could be more depending on what the workload is at that point in time. It depends also how much corrosion you've been exposed to over time. If you recall, you may have read back many months ago, when we were building the new base, everybody wanted it Ballina. The problem with Ballina, it's within a mile of the coastline, and the cost to maintain these aircraft goes up threefold because it's in a corrosive environment. 10 miles inland, we sort of get out of that area a bit. Belmont is within that mile range, and they are suffering, and they're suffering already. We've already seen signs of corrosion on the aircraft. So they've got a lot of work. So as I say, those aircraft will rotate through other areas, being Tamworth and Lismore. Tamworth certainly being a lot drier, they'd probably do that aircraft okay. And again, this is what we do it all the time. It's, volunteers are our key, and they are beneficial to obviously our op shops and our outdoor events. And we have about 11 volunteers helping us on the Hell on Wheels coming up in a couple of weeks. And that's Amber there wearing the helicopter suit, different colour hair. She's trying to dodge that now. But no, it's anyone can get involved in any capacity, from op shops to events. We're always seeking assistance in all those because we are pretty thin on the ground. We just do have one person for each role. We only have one events manager, one volunteer coordinating officer. So it does get quite tough and tight from time to time trying to run an event. Or we're just looking at opening up an op shop in Wollumbar, but we need at least 60 staff to man it 5.5 days a week. So it's pretty hard to squeeze that out of the actual Wollumbar group. We're certainly working on that at the present time, but we can't commit to the shop until we at least have 60 volunteers signed up. That's just a picture during their training just at near Lismore. So all the crews, all the staff that were in the old world have moved across to the new world. The only personnel we actually lost was our board of directors and our CEO. That's the only change that's happened, but otherwise everybody's moved from the old to the new. Full pays, full conditions, they didn't lose their long service leave, their annual leave, sickness benefits, that all came across. So that was maintained. So we are still the same back helicopter service. Any questions? I know I went rather rapidly there.
Any questions to Roger, councillors? Just a quick one. You mentioned earlier there about a primary mission. And you need to have your medical staff. What's the difference? I assume therefore you've got secondary missions.
Yes.
What's the
No, so the secondaries are a transfer from hospital to hospital. So you might see from time to time come to Tenterfield and pick up a patient from the hospital here. The same team are used for that mission, and they'll come out to the football field here and go back to Lismore Base or to the Gold Coast, wherever that patient may need to be dealt with in the future. So, and we are drifting over the Gold Coast a lot more than Brisbane, because the Gold Coast, as you know, opened up their large hospital with a 75-bed ED department alone. So it's not unusual for us to take patients north. Where the accidents happen today at Glenrae, that would straight go to coughs. If that patient needed to move south, then they'll have a fixed wing probably fly in. They'll be all coordinated through the ambulance service to fly that patient down to Sydney. But when it's like this end of the patch of the woods, it's not unusual for us to jump over the border and drop the patient off at the Gold Coast. It's all coordinated through the ACC sitting down in Redfern, and they determine if there's certain clinical care needs on that patient, and this is determined by the doctor at the scene. They may say, sorry, there's another vascular surgeon sitting at Lismore today, he's actually up in Brisbane, he or she might be up there, or they might be in the Gold Coast, and they're going to have to take the patient there. And that's some of the things that have been a benefit since doctors have come on board the aircraft too. They can determine that this is what this person needs now, not get the patient to a hospital, then work out, oh, we may have to take them on the high specialist care. So there's less double handling. So from a patient perspective, it's a safer process and better outcomes.
Harold, just wondering, how much do you go across into Queensland or besides the Gold Coast?
Yeah. Years ago, we averaged about 16 missions a year over the border, over the border. We probably do not dissimilar today. We're probably down to about 12, but it does come down to location, and again, that dealing with what does this patient need, what type of level of care. Particularly spinal patients, we don't like to multi-handle for obvious reasons. So spinals, we do go straight over to the Queensland system and drop them at Gold Coast, because invariably they may end up there anyway, through either road transport. So in most cases we try and take them over the border. But again, Lismore Base is a trauma hospital, but if it's the case that the doctor believes it'd be better for the patient's outcome, we'll go straight over the border.
And how about pickups?
Pickups from border and back this way? No.
From Queensland?
No, we wouldn't bring them from north back to south. Yeah, no, I think I've never done that in all my years, actually brought anyone back. Certainly I've operated in Queensland, picked patients up from Queensland when their services can't react. We've jumped over the border and picked their people up and moved them on to Brisbane hospitals. Yeah, but very rare to bring in border case.
Councillor, please.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Red. Just one question, is it a free service to the patient? Do they contribute in any way, or do the health funds contribute to you in any way at all?
If the health funds and you pay into an ambulance fund, it would help, yes. If more people did that, it would. But no, we don't charge anyone, it's a free charge. So we never get a bill from the Westpac helicopter.
Councillor Gorman.
I forgot about the health, but if you are a member, you would make a claim.
No, you don't have to make a claim, but the fact that it's covered under that scheme. So
I mean, do they therefore contribute to you?
if you're a contributor to the ambulance fund or a private health scheme, it does assist in the overall coverage cost of operating a helicopter, but we don't actually physically see that from a paper perspective.
My question was actually to do with pickups. I know you pick up all over the countryside, but when you do like patient transfer or whatever, do you prefer at the town that you go to that they have a designated like a cement pad rather than just grass?
Oh, sorry, yeah, no, that's part of the problem with this airframe, because it's 7 tonne of aircraft. McLean's a good example. I don't know if you're familiar with McLean's helipad. It was built around, designed around an oil rig platform. It suited the old aircraft. It was only 4 tonne. It had a 5,800 kg safe working limit. This is 7,000 tonne aircraft. It's 7 tonne aircraft. It won't work on that pad. Now, what we're trying to suggest is that a lot of communities want to build nice concrete pads. But it's actually not the pads the issue, it's the approach and departure. Again, looking at the safety margins to make sure that there's a clear approach path and a clear departure path. So it's we've had to sort of say to a lot of communities, don't go investing money into a concrete pad that's 6 inches thick and it's 40 metres square, that's all well and good. It's actually the approach and departure that we have to look at. And this again is coming back to these safety margins. It seems a bit bizarre, like it just landed at a maybe side of the road somewhere that don't have those margins. That's acceptable because there's not something we plan to actually go to, but a hospital we plan to go to. But that's why there's a survey, there's a separate consultancy company that's been employed to actually go statewide and look at every single helipad that every hospital may operate from, be it a football field or an actual pad, an old one, and they've got a survey not just based on the concrete, but actual program. And it's not, doesn't meet some of the criteria, then we have to look at alternatives. I mean, McLean, for example, we're now landing at Palmer's Island, which is 10 k's away from McLean. It's not ideal, but that's the only place there's a little airfield there because it has a nice approach and path to it. It doesn't make sense when the aircraft actually has greater capability than previous, but they're trying to make sure that we operate in far safer parameters and in accordance with the actual manufacturer's instructions as well. They call them Cat A and Cat B approaches and departures. It's a little bit more to it than just a helipad.
Roger, thank you, and Councillor, we'll wrap it up there. Roger's on a busy schedule, has to be out by half past 11. Roger, thanks very much. Councillors, would you thank Roger for his presentation? Roger and Amber, if you can stay around, we're going to break the smoke out here. You're more than welcome to a storm with some weight losing cream on it. And I know you're busy, mate, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting us along.
Thank you. Right, councillors, welcome back, and once again, thank you for participating in a wonderful morning meeting. And councillors, thanks for your understanding this morning to do with a few reports which relate. One to do with the section 44 and the map. It's important we keep our council informed. Andre and your efforts in explaining what that means, it's appreciated and thank you. And then once again, it's important that we have those presentations, especially for Roger and that team, and how important the Westpac helicopter is to us. So Thanks, councillors, for rolling with the punches there. So we'll get back onto our agenda. It's page 30 in your hard copy. Item EC 025/17, Planning and Development Update. Can I have a move in a second here, please, councillors? Councillor Murray, I thank you. Second, please, Councillor Rogan, and I thank you. And I'll hand over to our Senior Administration and Planning Assistant. No? Andre. Reading from the top.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. This report, as you know, is a report that happens each month, gives an overview of our planning and development status. As you will see, when you had a bit of a look through the report, there's been 10 new applications lodged during the month of August. 13, inclusive of some of those applications and past applications, 13 were dealt with under delegation, and you'll notice that there's 4 outstanding. Those 4 that are outstanding, 2 of them relate to RFS requirements, just waiting for feedback from RFS. And there are long-standing issues there. The one takeaway from this report, councillors, is that you have a look at the graph at the back and the trends. You'll notice that comparing 2016-17 with 2017-18, our current financial year, certainly with the building approvals, that is up, and that is positive going forward in terms of the economic development and activity around this area. So open to your questions and to probably chime in and help where needed.
Councillors, any questions to Andre or to me to do with this report? Councillor Greg Sawyer.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Andre, on page 34 of the development statistics, just for my clarification, under commercial industrial works, 1 of $0, subdivision 2 of $0. How do you have 1 of something with nothing and 2 of something with nothing?
Yeah, of course, tomato.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the $0 reflects the estimated cost of development. So with the subdivision, there is 0 cost of development as a lodgement for the application. And with the commercial industrial development, I need to check it, but it perhaps was a change of use that didn't involve any construction works and therefore any cost. Thank you.
Thanks to mate for your explanation. Councillors, any more questions to do with to Andre or to mate to do with this report? Councillor Berry.
Mr Mayor, through you to Mayor Andre. I don't know if you can answer it, but with the crematorium, I don't want to know any details about that, but I'm just curious, could they theoretically cremate Queensland?
Depends on the colour of the jumper.
I don't know where you're leading with that question, Councillor. Can't answer. You're not going to answer that, are you? And then Lismore would be the other one closest to you, the one which I hung up. Anyway, we'll let that one go over the top, Councillor Berry. Any more questions, Councillor, to do with the report? Okay, Councillors, office recommendations there to receive a note. All in favour? Against? Carried. Councillors, as always, be aware in the hard copy that goes from page 30 to page 36. Moving to page 37, Councillors, in your hard copy, it's item EC 026/17, Taronga River Road Public Gate Vehicle Bypass Application. Can I have a move in a second to deal with this one, please? Councillor Sawyer, thank you. Second, Mike Petrie. Thank you, Councillor Mike Petrie. And I'll hand over to our Civil Engineering Officer, Andre.
Mr Mayor and councillors, this report is relating to a new application for a public gate and vehicle bypass. You may or may not be aware that on our network in Tenfield Shire Council there are well over 600 routes, gates, as they're called, on our roads. Generally, we don't like to have them, but nonetheless, at the end of the day, it's about trying to work with the community and making sure that whatever we put in place going forward meets the required standards. So there is a framework that we've got to work through. Under the Roads Act, we can approve these grids, subject to the appropriate signage and the process we work through. So this one is down on the Rocky River Road, as indicated, 10 close enough to 11 kilometres east of Billa River Road. Intersection there, and some pictures there just outline the site distance. So I commend you endorsing the process go forward in relation to this application.
Councillors, the report's there. Questions to our officer to do the report? I'll go with Councillor Berry, then you, Councillor Peters.
Through you, Mr Mayor, Andre, with these grids,
Order, please.
a lot of these grids are subject to being wider than the existing road apparently, and I've had a couple of complaints about that, but people actually saying, well, when you get the road to the same standard as what the grid's got to be, I'll do that size grid. To me, it doesn't make much sense that we're putting such an onerous position on these people when they build these grids in the first place.
Look, Councillor, I suppose there's one guiding principle for these applications, whether it be grids, guardrail, bridges, you name it. At the end of the day, when you do upgrades to infrastructure and assets, you're obliged to deal with the standard of the day, right? So you would go, it doesn't matter, you look at guardrail on your bridges around the Shire, right? There's probably any amount of old guardrail that you're sort of thinking, gee, would that stop a push bike if it ran into it? Probably not. But that said, once you touch it, once you change, make some changes to what you're doing, you've got to deal with the standards of the day. So the reality is going forward, you know, we have very few single-lane roads, right? They're meant to be two-lane roads. In due course, formations be widened as appropriate, so it's a case of dealing with the standard of the day.
Thank you, Andre. Councillor Peters.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Question to Andre, which you might want to answer anyway.
Councillor.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, a quick question to Andre, which, as I said before, he might not want to answer anyway. Is this road on the council easement, or is it on private property? Because it's a big problem with our council, to bridge. It'll come up in a minute. But the next, one of these other things a bit later on the agenda.
Councillor, that level of detail I would have to personally double check. Dare I say though, I know where you're coming from because there's many roads that council maintains. They're deemed to be public roads, but they're not necessarily in the council road reserve. They're on private property, and so there's issues there, right, with regards to, you know, is it a public road or a private road? The reality of it is that there is legislation, right, called the Closed Lands Act, right, that deals with those issues. So if you've got an existing road, it's a public road, it's managed under the Roads Act of 1993, but for all intents and purposes, from an insurance point of view, we treat that road as a public road, and in due course, the issues of, you know, whether that road is in the road reserve or not can get dealt with, right, from a property DP point of view. But that said, right now, whether this is actually in the road reserve, whether this road is part of an easement or part of the road reserve, I'll have to check that detail.
Councillor, before I ask for any other questions to do with this, it's a fair point, and it's why I want to speak, because we're not the only council that will be dealing with that. It's all over the countryside. But you've raised a really good point, and we don't need to be telling our staff what to do, but they are obviously aware of these you know, issues when they arise, when they rise, and it's something that we always need to be on top of to make sure that things are in the right place, and we can't help what's happened 100 years ago. And that's fairly standard, that's where the road was, and that's where they go. It's nowhere near the map road, let's call it. So you've raised a really good point, but it is something that we work with on a daily basis. Any other questions to do with the report? I'll go to you, Councillor White. I'll come back to you.
No, we know that it just seems to go on. It's not kept or anything.
That's on.
Just a good point. Right,
You're right?
yeah, right.
Okay. Councillor Bronwyn Petrie.
Yeah, thank you. With the, continuing from Councillor Berry's comment, the requirement has to be a minimum of 3.6 metres wide, and for single lane, I think the issue before was when council at one stage tried to have everyone put in double widths, even though they often on our council roads you've got to pull one side or back up so another vehicle can go past and got their single lane bridges and culverts. But the issue I think is that also that it has to be capable of carrying a big double truck. So many roads are never going to be able to so many big double truck on them. But my main question is in relation to the body of the report. It keeps referring to the Road Regulation 2000, Now, the road regulation is actually 2008, the 2001 as I understood it, superseded. So the body of the report, and it's the same, occurs again later, where it says that road regulation 2008 also applies. So as far as I understand, and I'm happy to be corrected, road regulation 2008 is the only one that applies, because 2000 was superseded, and we should, to get it right, is its clauses 73 to 76 in the road regulation 2008, not 60, whatever it is, 70 of 2000. So we can just, for future things, and I know, because also know that our WIS policy is going to be redone, but if we just get this correct, please, have the correct information.
Thanks, Ronnie. Any more questions, Andre, to the report, councillors? No more questions. Officers' recommendations there, councillors. We're voting on 1, 2, 3. All in favour? Against? Okay, thank you. Councillors, we move on to page 41. In your hard copy, it's item EC 027/17, Done Main Right of Carriageway, Overby Drive, Tabulum. So I'm moving a second to deal with this item, please. Councillor Forbes, I thank you. Seconded by Councillor Mike Petrie. Thank you. And once again, I'll hand over to Andre to present the report.
Okay, Councillor, where we're at with this road naming exercise is that this is probably the third iteration of a process that we've been through today to attribute a name to an unnamed lane at this point in time. From previous reports, you would have noted that we've been through a number of engagement sessions with the public. We've advertised that process. We've had zero feedback for all intents and purposes, so we're really at the stage now of confirming that the name is as stated, Granite Lane, and we go through the conceptual process and make sure the appropriate signage is in place. So I recommend the report to you as recommendation states.
Councillors, the recommendations there. Any questions, Andre, to do with the recommendation? No?
No, I'm just saying, Conrad was going back and making sure that they were all happy with it, was obviously no complaints, so.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillors, the recommendations there. Once again, it's in the form of 3. All happy to accept that? Against? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, page 45 in your hard copy. It's item EC 028/17. Proposed road closure application. Can I move in a second here, please? Councillor Sawyer, thank you. Second, please. Councillor Rogan, I thank you. And once again, I'll hand over to Andre to present this report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. Councillors, this report is about I suppose, effectively a closing of a section of a paper road that joins an existing property of Robertson's Lane. The applicant has currently made application to the New South Wales Department of Industry and Lands to procure that paper road. There is a process that they have to go through, not the least being getting endorsement from council, and obviously the person has to go and speak to neighbours to the effect that might impact the neighbours. And just looking at this, I've had a bit of a look at it myself. I do not see a problem with us endorsing this report as it is, and the process will just work its way out through the natural way of Crown Lands dealing with these issues. So I recommend the report as is stated.
Questions to Andre to deal with the report? Councillor Bryan, Petrie.
Thank you, Andre, and may I commend you. I think I understand that by supporting it, we're supporting it upon condition that an easement of right of carriageway is endorsed on the adjoining portions to allow the sale to go through. And I'm really pleased to see that that is the case, because we've had over, ever since the government put out the option for farmers to be able to purchase these paper roads or convert them to purchase them and have them then made freehold, this council stopped a number of those purchases happening on the basis that even though Lands Department was saying an easement can be created which protects both properties or half a dozen properties, whatever it is, and council at the time or upon an officer's recommendation refused it, because he said no, that can be changed by will, and Department of Land said no, it can't be, it goes on both times. So I'd just like to congratulate council now might actually put it through a common sense way that stops these bubs having to pay that yearly administration fee that the government doesn't want, the Parliament doesn't want either, so thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Any more questions in relation to the report, councillors? The officer's recommendations there, council. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, page 48 in hard copies, item ENV 18/17, it's Local Heritage Place, Places Fund, 21728. Sorry, councillor.
I'm clear, Nicholas.
Thank you. Could I move in a second to deal with this item, please? Councillor Berry, I thank you. Seconded by Councillor Peters, and I thank you. And I'll hand over to Tamae, thank you, Tamae, and to present this report. Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, councillors, the recommendation there is that council endorses offers of funding as detailed in booklet 1, attachment number 5. This year we received 13 applications for the Local Heritage Fund. The applications were reviewed by staff, Council's Heritage Advisor, and also presented to the Heritage Committee, which have also endorsed the recommendations. There is an even distribution across applications, with the recommendation that any surplus funding be distributed across those applications at the end of the time period for works.
Thank you, Tamae. Councillors, the report's there in front of you. Any questions to Tamae to do with the report? Councillor Berry?
Question to you, Mr Mayor, tomorrow. Number 2 says, any funding not accepted or not claimed by the claim date may be redistributed evenly amongst the completed projects. I'm just wondering why it hasn't gone to some of the unfunded projects. I'm fine with the way it is, but...
Through you, Mr Mayor, they've all been funded, so all applications have been funded.
Any other questions to Tamae, councillors? No? The report's there, council. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Nish can come back.
What do you mean now?
Thanks, Councillor McNish. Council Room, page 51, it's item ENV 19/17, short-term holiday letting in New South Wales, options paper. Council, can I have a move in a second to deal with this item, please? Councillor Bronwyn Petrie, I thank you. Seconded by Councillor Mike Petrie, I thank you. And once again, I'll hand over to Tamae to present this report. Thank you.
Through Mr Mayor, this report is advising council of an options paper which is currently on public exhibition through until October. It's looking at a whole of government approach to look at either regulating or not regulating what we refer to as short-term holiday accommodation. You might be familiar with Airbnb or stays where people rent out their homes for tourist accommodation. Currently under provisions of the Tennegood Local Environmental Plan, there is a requirement for development consent to be obtained. Prior to that use proceeding. We've had a number of those applications in the last few years, which is detailed in the report there. We certainly don't see as many as obviously along the coast, Byron Bay and the coastlines. In this area, we haven't had any issues with them historically. And the preference from a planning perspective is that there be less regulation in terms of what our current process is and certainly support some broader exemptions, particularly in regional areas, which is the recommendation there.
Good recommendation. Councillors, any questions to Tamae to deal with the report? Councillor Berry?
Just a comment, Mr Mayor, I think it's a very good report tonight. Up in there, I know there's 2 or 3 houses that have been vacant for years and years, and I think this type of thing might encourage us to put somebody into those houses, bring this more tourism to the district.
Other questions? Councillor Bronwyn Petrie?
Thank you, Tamae, and for your recommendation. I think you're quite right in trying to streamline a lot of this. And I'm just wondering, because places like Byron will obviously want more regulation. I think it was already before council to try, because of the holiday, designated holiday places were objecting to all the people who are just staying in people's homes, and they thought that was inhibiting their custom. If it comes that certain regional areas don't want the exemptions, but we do you see in our submission that we can make some comment on that whether it's inland, that, you know, even if some councils choose to go for further regulation, that individual councils have the right to not be impinged by a broad brush statewide rule or something like that, because you will find that certain coastal councils will want to have more control.
Through you, Mr Mayor, certainly we would make a submission once a draft policy is on exhibition. So this is the first step in terms of, look, which direction do we think we should go in terms of legislation, no legislation at all. And when they come back, the next step will be a draft policy that we could comment on. And that would have the detail as to, if they were looking at regional areas, whether or not we would be able to comply with it. If we couldn't, we could put our own provisions in the LEP.
Thank you, Tamara. Any more questions to the mate? To do the report, councillors? If not, the officer's recommendation is there. All in favour of the recommendation, councillors? All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Page 55 in your hard copy, councillors, is item ENB 20/17. Alcohol-free zone, standard for a great deal of Edmund Bill. I'll move in a second to deal with this one, please. Councillor Sawyer, thank you. Second, please. Councillor Michael Petrie, thank you. I hand over to Andre. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. At the present time, we have alcohol-free zones in place, and those alcohol-free zones expire on the 30th of October of this year. There is a process that we have to go through to renew those alcohol-free zones, and this report addresses that process. I'm going to report to you as stated.
Questions? Just a report, just an update. Good thing. Councillors, any questions? No questions? All happy? Received? Against? Carried. Page 59, councillors, in your hard copies, item GOB 6317, Local Government Affairs Commission submissions. Can I move in a second, please, to deal with this one? Councillor Murray, I thank you. Second, please. Councillor Michael Petrie, I thank you. I hand over to Acting Chief Executive Colin. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. So there we've got an officer's recommendation based on some correspondence we received by the Grants Commission and following a visit and subsequent workshop that the council attended. And the recommendation there is that we write to the Local Government Grants Commission thanking them for the opportunity to make the submission and advising that at this stage council doesn't have anything to submit that would impact on our disability rankings, and also to affirm the correspondence council's commitment to continue to lobby for an increase in the quantum of the federal finance assistance grant to the equivalent of 1% of Commonwealth taxation revenue, in recognition of that particular workshop we had with the Grants Commission, whereby they've told us that they're only allocating about a third of the assessed need across council areas.
Recommendations there, councillors. Any questions to Colin? Councillor Gary Berry.
Mr Mayor, when we had that discussion, there was a discrepancy in the amount of roads that we have and they have for our shire. I just wonder if we sorted that out.
Was I can just before I had all I gave you some information because I always carried around a bit of a brief on all it. And what it told me and what was presented were two different figures, and I thought you were going to take that away and find out. I didn't make a big issue of it. It's just we need to know. Yeah. And the document always carries good document. Tells how many bridges we've got, how many gravel roads we've got, how much sealed road we've got. That's what you're referring to, councillor.
Yeah, Mr Mayor and councillors, that document, I did have a quick look at that, but in terms of sort of going into our asset management registers and double checking, that is something that I would leave for the new asset manager to come on board. That's a job that he can get his head around. Get the first things first, get in the registers, have a look at them, talk to his, his officer dealing with the data, and do the forensic check himself. So the process has started. We're pretty close to appointing our person, so we'll get feedback very soon.
Thank you. Councillor Robert, you indicated?
Yeah, a question, thank you, Mr Mayor. Officer's recommendation 2 is to continue to lobby for an increase in the quantum to the equivalent of 1%. But in the officer's report, last paragraph, it says here, Council's commitment to advocate the reinstatement of the quantum of the federal financial assistance grant of 1%. I'm just wondering which one it is.
Right.
It's Essentially, it used to be 1%, and so in the operational plan, it's there that we lobby for the reinstatement of the 1% that was there, but it's not there at the moment.
So therefore, if it's not there at the moment, instead of continuing to lower for an increase to the equivalent of, shouldn't be for the reinstatement of the quantum of 1%?
I will leave that up to council to choose how I would like to work that.
Councillor,
If it's non-existent,
yeah, no, we'll deal with it. If you want to make that change.
I'm happy to
So
have that,
it's-
that's what I'm saying. If
so it's-
that's something
yeah.
that you'd like to make the amendment, or it depends on whether you wish to recognise that it happened in the past and we want it back, or whether or not you'd like it to move to that particular point.
Well, why I see it, it's both of them are, yes, it's a lobby where you want to put it back to reinstate, so if you want to make a change, councillor, we're happy to move
yeah,
the
but I'm saying
amendment.
that if you use the word to increase, it implies if there's something already there. If it was there and has been removed, then we want it reinstated.
Yep.
If it's there at less than 1%, we want it to increase, that's a different category. That's why I'm just trying to confirm what the current state of play is. If it's not there at all, let's amend the motion to
Yep.
reinstate.
Yep.
If it is there but less than 1%, then it goes to increase.
It's less than one, so we do have a quantum that's applied, which is the amount of money that's already allocated to financial assistance grants from the Commonwealth, and I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what that percentage is of their total revenue. Previously, it was 1% of the revenue collected by the Commonwealth and was distributed to local government. So it's less than that at this point in time.
Therefore, I would recommend that we change the wording, because if you apply for reinstatement, there's already a precedent, and in the politicians' minds, it's all we're putting back something which someone else has taken away. But if you apply for something to increase, it's like you're getting a better deal. So I'd like to modify
So
the
to do with
statement
number 2, councillor, you're indicating an amendment?
yeah, to continue to lobby for the reinstatement of the quantum of the federal financial assistance grant to 1% of the Commonwealth.
Okay, councillor, no, let's just typing it up to make sure that you're happy with the wording. Do I have a second for the amendment, councillors? Councillor Berry, thank you. Councillor Bean, the move of the amendment, do you want to speak to the amendment? Councillor Berry being the second of the amendment, do you want to speak to the amendment?
Councillor Petrie explained it quite well.
Thank you. Any speakers against the amendment? No? Okay, councillors, we'll put the amendment, then the amendment becomes the recommendation, or number 2 of the recommendation. All in favour? Against? Carried. Now we'll put the complete recommendation. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay, councillors, we'll move on to page 62. Item GOB 64/17. Continue to local government New South Wales Annual Conference submission of motions. Can I move in a second here to deal with this, please? Councillor Berry, I thank you. Seconded by Councillor Peters, and I thank you. And I'll hand over to our acting Chief Executive, Bob Colley, to present, please.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. So the purpose of this report is to adopt the motions for submission for local government New South Wales consideration for inclusion. The recommendations that are quite listed there at this particular point are, number 1, that local government New South Wales write to the Minister for Roads, Maritime Services, Transport to request that local government areas are able to meet and negotiate with Forestry Corporation New South Wales to contribute towards grading or any other work on maintaining roads while logging is going on in the area. Motion 2, local government New South Wales asks the federal and New South Wales state government to fund a feasibility study to determine which of the streams along the Great Dividing Range is suitable for the generation of hydroelectricity, pump hydro, and if feasible, allocate funds in the next budget for this work. Number 3, that a ban be placed on wet wipes marketed as flushable toilet wipes due to their negative impact on sewer lines and sewage processing facilities. And number 4, that a percentage of the collected GST revenue, say 1%, be provided directly to local government to ensure equitable distribution of funds for the provision of services and ensure their ongoing financial sustainability.
Questions to Colley, councillors, to do with this report? There's other motions that will go to the local government New South Wales conference. Councillor Ron, yeah.
In number 1, where second line says, because the local government areas LGAs are able meet, can we put the add the word to, able to meet, towards grading or any other work, we chose the or to an and, towards grading and any other work on maintaining roads while logging is going on in, get rid of the. And just leave that area? Because there's a few of it.
To completely, I'm the author of that.
Yeah.
So I put my hand up with my bad putting together of that, councillor, so.
Yeah, we can just take that.
Sorry, so able to meet.
Okay, able to meet, and then come down towards grading and any other work, and get rid of the instead of saying that. So it's going on
In that area.
in that area. And then number 2, second line, you have S to government. And I also did have an amendment for 51, the one about the rateable layers, which I did email through to Noel. It was just that,
Councillors, order please, you're the councillor
Sorry,
speaking.
why is the state on? Why is there an S on New South Wales state government?
ask the federal and New South Wales state governments, because there's 2
Oh, okay, yep, sorry.
that was my tidy up. And
Yeah.
then I had a separate issue from an additional number 5, which I did email.
Well, councillor, I think that in fairness to everybody who's advised they needed to have it into the business paper.
No, it was just that, I had a query because the one that came through, the federal government funding.
Right.
I understood this was a state government thing, so I altered it and it's not through.
Okay.
But I've added another time.
Right. Well, we take it to the National General Assembly, which that's why.
No, it's a state government issue.
Right.
That's why I had to hold.
Okay, councillors, they're pleased to be aware that on page 65, which is good information, to do with a couple of with the fag expense and the gradable land, they have gone to the National General Assembly in 2013, but all good. Be aware that these will go away, then the local government New South Wales don't know will accept these motions or not. So, but I do thank councillors for taking the time and effort to put these together, and colleagues for your time in putting the report. So they're there, councillors, the recommendations there, all in favour.
So I can't add an amendment to add
Well, what, councillor? Happy to deal with this. It's not an amendment, you want to move another motion.
I want to amend this motion by adding number 5.
Which motion?
This one.
Number 4?
No, see where you've got 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
I want to amend this motion by adding number 5 to the motion, the recommendation, which is simply that local government New South Wales lobby the state government to apply local government rates to national parks, nature reserves, state conservation areas and state forests.
So this is not,
This is number 5.
yeah, but this is non-rateable land compensation. No,
It's not
totally,
compensation.
it's totally different, it's another motion.
It's a motion to the state government conference.
Yeah.
Based on that one, but correcting it to state government policy, because there's state national parks and state forests. not
Yes.
Federal,
Yes?
and it's not compensation, it's rating,
Right. Okay, I'm going to accept that, councillor, because you're dealing with one there. What I thought you were doing was putting another motion.
No, I just wanted this existing motion
Yes.
before us to vote on, I
Yes.
just want to amend it by
Yes.
adding a number 5.
Okay,
Which states that local government New South Wales lobby the state government to apply local government rates to national parks, nature reserves, state conservation areas and state forests. The reason for adding nature reserves and state conservation areas is that there have been expansions to the national park system.
well, councillor, deal with this. So you're happy with the wording up there, because it's an amendment to this? Councillor Peters, out of respect, because you've submitted these, are you happy to accept this amendment? Okay. So councillor, you're moving an amendment for the last motion? Right, good. So you're happy with the wording up there? Okay, do I have a second? Councillor Peters, thank you. Okay, councillor, now you can speak to the amendment that you're putting forward.
Fine, thank you.
But I apologise, I just wasn't with what you were trying to do there.
Like just written there that non-rateable lands such as national parks and state forest require significant local support services, namely roads, bridges and rural fire services, which benefit the wider population, but are funded by the population of the local government area. That's straight from the previous motion that we've gone
Yep.
federally.
Yep.
But I've added there that many small rural councils and shires have large areas of non-rateable land such as national parks and state forests. I use national parks collectively because they also have nature reserves and state conservation areas, quite significant areas. But I'm just using that just term national parks to cover those other titles. And so we have, as a result, increasingly reduced rateable land base. I think technical shire has gone from 20% down to 34%. And as a result of that, you're removing more land from the rating base. You often have a decrease in population because the agriculture activities or timber harvesting activities or everything else, all the services that were based on those industries have contracted. So you see loss in population and therefore increased burden on the ratepayers and the shires, shire councils to still deliver services because people still have to use those roads even though there's less properties or whatever in there. And so in all fairness, the state government should contribute to the road space. I know they provide grants for various things, but this is a significant portion of a lot of shires, and they're usually rural regional shires, and I think it is only fair that they should contribute and should not be exempt simply because they're contracted.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Peters, being the second of the amendment, did you want to speak?
No, I think Councillor Clearfield has done a good job on explaining.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, councillors, you're aware we're doing this. It's been a change to the last motion going forward. It's up there. All in favour of the amendment? Against? Carried. That now becomes the officer's recommendation. All in favour of that? Against? Carries. Okay, page 67, councillors, in your hard copy. Order, please. GOV 65/17, publication bypass application issue. Can I have a move in a second to deal with this item, please? Councillor Peters, thank you. Second to Councillor Berry. And I'll hand over to Andre as our engineering officer to present this report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
I get the fees and charges, he's the technical.
Okay.
So-
I'm just reading from the top.
Through Mr Mayor and councillors, look, this fee to $100 pertaining to the section 138 work on grids and gates. This is, as you know, was a new fee that was put forward in the last set of fees and charges that was put to council, and it was endorsed as part of the suite of fees that council would apply to its services. Certainly since that that resolution of council, there's been a little bit of, I suppose, a question as to the reason for the fee. Certainly, there's been some questions on some of the process, how we apply the Section 138 process. So this report is really all about trying to articulate what are the processes associated with the maintenance and compliance of grids in our shire. I did mention a little bit earlier on in the council meeting that we have something like 600 plus grids in our shire. So that requires maintenance from time to time, not every month. It might be once every 2 years. Who knows what sort of condition a specific grid is in. But nonetheless, there is a maintenance requirement that is on the landowner, and ultimately council has to exercise due diligence to go and check on these things. And so this report outlines that process and basically puts the case one way or another, right, for you to consider whether we're going to endorse this fee and apply it going forward, or whether you would choose to scrap that fee. So I would commend to you certainly the points 1 and 2, and really points 3 and 4. That's a choice for you to determine.
Thank you, Andre, and you've explained it really well. So, does councillors have any questions to Andre to do with this report? Councillor Peters.
As I pointed out before, a lot of the roads on council land are on private roads anyway. So why pay $100 to work on your own grid on your own property? And besides that, you have a shared grid with a neighbour. Is it $50 for one bloke and $50 for the other? What's to go there? And what happens on, say a rail comes out of the grid on a Friday afternoon, right? You can't get into the council to sort of get a permit to fix it. What do you do? Just leave it in a mess and hope nobody runs down it, or do you wait till Monday morning and fix it then, or do you fix it when you see the problem? Most of these grids are fixed at no cost to council anyway, they're fixed by the landholders when they're supposed to own them. Right. How to answer all those questions? Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Through you, Mr Mayor, you've asked me 3 questions there, so I'll go through them one by one. With regards to the land, right, that these roads are on, I mentioned to you a little bit earlier that the roads that we maintain, right, whether it's on the road reserve or not, right, they're governed by, right, the 1993 Roads Act. And we have the right under the Enclosed Lands Act, right, to treat that road, whether it's on your private property or not, to treat it as though it is a public road, subject to the rules of the 1993 Roads Act. The Roads Act requires, right, for any work on a public road to be subject to appropriate safety considerations, right? Now, one of those is traffic control. The council, because council is responsible for that road, ultimately from a public liability viewpoint, it needs to know what's going on. So I wouldn't get too caught up on the land issue. That's covered between those 2 acts that I referred to. The second point you raised about a shared grid and a shared property, or basically a boundary. Look, I haven't had that question asked to me before, but I certainly would be referring to the office to take a common sense approach at the time. Right, whoever is doing the work, I'm sure it's not one person who does the work on the grid all the time. Surely between, well, whoever is intending to do the work should be putting in the application, and one would hope that, you know, 2 neighbours can get on and work something out like that between themselves as to the sharing of the costs. With regards to, you mentioned about really emergency situations, dealing with something. Look, common sense would prevail, councillor. I would suggest that if something's urgent, right, that you get out and you do it. But you seek to fulfil intent by going through the process, even if it's late after the event, and just not try to circumvent the system. We seem to have too much of circumventing the systems, and there's a whole lot of work that's going on, as is indicated in this report, where a lot of times people just don't worry about the Section 138s. The reality is, if something went wrong, right, there would be issues to deal with from the insurance viewpoint, and it would come back on the insurers, not only council's insurers, but your own insurers, for getting out there and sort of acting inside the rules of the Road Act. So, look, I've been, when I got this report, I doctored it quite a bit. I don't mind saying that. I looked at it quite carefully to make sure that it was comprehensive, that it explained what the intent was that we were trying to achieve. That we're not out there trying to slug our ratepayers. We're just out there trying to manage the council's risk. So that's where we're at, councillor.
Thank you, Andre. Councillor Bromwell, did you indicate? Then I'll go to you, Councillor Perry. Thank you.
Just again, the same thing about the roads regulation 2008, sections 73 to 76 under part 6. If we just get that tidied up, please. Now, with regard to this issue, it's not just about working on the grid or lifting the grid out and cleaning underneath it. What people have to remember here, and staff have to remember, is that it also includes potholes, anything on the surface 20 metres each side of that grid. It also includes the gate next to the grid and the fence that runs within that 20 metre road reserve, 20.05, whatever it is. So every time, if this was to go through, every time a beast went through the wire or the wire deteriorated and you had to restrain it or replace a bit of wire, not on the carriageway, but off to the side, another $100. Every time you go to repair, or fill in the potholes inside in that 40 metre stretch, $100 every time, which it does happen more often than every 2 to 3 years. So it does work out over time to be a major disincentive for people to maintain that 40 metres. They're going to go, well, I'm driving down to my grid, go through all the council potholes, why should I bother fixing up the potholes in my 40 metre stretch until they get to a state of condition worse than that of the council road? There's no incentive for me to actually fix them, let alone pay for the privilege of doing so. As for the staff person having to go out and inspect these grids and gates, I would expect that as per the previous report with the Rocky River bypass, where it stated that the council assets inspector routinely inspects grids as they are doing their job throughout the Shire, so there's no extra impost upon council. I presume they would have to go, I'm not sure how often they get round all our network of roads, but I would presume it would be fairly frequently, and therefore if there's any issue, it would be noted straight away and action taken. I think rural ratepayers pay the highest burden of our rate space. They also receive the least services, it's well documented. Councillor Peters' comments about weekends. Imagine if you've got a beast going through a fence or something happens to your gate and you've got to replace it on a weekend or a day of the week. You're not going to have stock running everywhere into the neighbour's place or what have you. While you get to drive to council, pay $100, get a permit and go back. Anyhow, I just think it's quite ridiculous. We'd end up having to have more staff to process it all. I thought we were about trying to reduce bureaucracy. I think it's impractical. The regulations are supposed to become practical and administrable, and I'm nearly embarrassed to see that it appeared in our document. I think it's more important that we get landowners to ensure that when they're actually interfering with the carriageway, that there are signs in place that the grid is being removed or repaired or etc. as a warning, rather than creating some bureaucratic empire.
Councillor Berry,
Well, I haven't got much.
the question to do with the report,
Yeah.
Councillor.
Yeah, well, I don't have much problem with the actual report. I've got a problem with the fact that a lot of these roads, as Councillor Peters points out, are not on the road reserve. Now, we had a couple of instances at Liston there where people threatened to close the road. This was on the Rivertree Road because council wouldn't do the right thing. Because it wasn't until during the last term, like the first couple of years that we expect it's been going for over 50 years. Now, what would happen? It would cost the council more if they said, well, look, I'm happy with the road where it is. You put your road where you want it. The council, that's going to cost us a small fortune in some instances. And I think they're quite in their right to do that, unfortunately. So my question is, what's going to cost council if people do jack up on this fee and say, look, you put your road where the road reserve is?
Thank you, Councillor. Andre, did you reply to that? I think you have before. I think it's important you don't, mate.
Look, Council, I fielded a number of inquiries in the last 2 months from people going down that path, asserting their rights over a road as a private road. Right? And just so happened, and I've checked, I've sought legal advice on this because there are quite a few roads in this Shire, as well as many other shires in New South Wales, where the existing public road that the public use, that council maintain, right, is not in the gazetted road reserve, right? That is just, and the reality of it is, quite often, the gazetted road reserve, right, is one that was originally probably a paper road and was drawn up without any sort of reference to survey. When they put the road in, they put it in the place that was most practical, right, to follow the ridge lines, etc. So at the end of the day, we've got the legacy here with regards to whether people can sort of jack up and say, right, go away, right, you're outside of the road reserve, this is our private land. I did indicate to you, there's 2 bits of legislation that we refer to, and I've checked our facts in that one. So I'm quite happy to deal with that on a case-by-case basis as needed going forward, and I don't think that's going to be a big issue.
More questions, Andre, to do with the report, councillors? President, be fully aware, and Colin, correct me if I'm wrong, but 2 things to do here in the officer's recommendation. It's 1 and 2. We're voting on that, and Andre, sorry.
And then the choice.
Yeah, then you got 3. All 4 is not to do anything. So I'm asking for a motion there. What we're actually going to do, councillors. Councillor Bronwyn Petrie. Sorry, before I do that, yes, Councillor.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can. Of course you can.
I was not aware that, pardon me, through you, Mr. Mayor,
Order, please.
I was not aware that the boundaries extended down your boundary line. Is that correct? Am I interpreting that correctly? I know it's 20 metres on each side of the grid. on the road. So going down the fence line, is that applicable?
Councillor, I'm not aware that that's applicable. Like, at the end of the day, you're dealing with the grid itself, you're dealing with the signage that's associated with the grid, and you're dealing with the 20 metres either side of the grid. So, you know, that our grid's policy does state what it is that you need to maintain, bearing in mind that the grid and the associated infrastructure is a private resort, a private asset, right? It's the landowner's asset at the end of the day, they're meant to maintain.
That's been my,
It's there for their convenience.
that's been my understanding.
Yeah, and your understanding is correct, councillor.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll go back, councillor, to councillor Bronwyn Petrie.
Well, I'm recommending that we take option 4, so I think it's just.
Councillor Peters, you're seconding that. Councillors, before we do vote, and not to sway or anything, be fully aware with the not debate, but with how this report is being presented and the conversation was, came out of this. We need to be so careful about, and I thank you, Andre, for your explanation, in making us aware on public roads and grids of the impact if there is insurance claims and God knows what. It's something that although we don't sit easy with it, for some of us, but that it is the world we live in. That people need to be responsible for the grid that's in that public road, and it needs to be of a stand. And I won't shift away from that. So I just needed to say that. Okay, so councillor, you put that up that we take option 4, and option 4 is remove the public gate bypass application issue of an S138 for maintenance fee of $100 in council 21718 fees and charges, notwithstanding the growing impact on council per item. But, councillor,
I also object to the growing impact on council. I don't think that there is a growing impact. This is a new fee. This is also, as I've stated previously, and this is stated in the reports, the council asset inspector makes regular, or supposed to make regular and routine, frequent inspections of our roads. So I don't see that there is any ongoing impact on the council. So I'd like to actually move an amendment to that, which is number 4, removes the public gate bypass application for maintenance fee of 100 in council's fees and charges, full stop. Remove the words notwithstanding the growing impact. Full stop there. And as I said, I'd be quite happy for council to, even if we put something in the paper, to remind people who are responsible for grids that if they are doing something in those works, they're supposed to get a certificate, or they certainly need signage if they're going to be physically moving the grid structure as an additional item.
okay, councillor, we'll deal with your amendment to number 4. Do you have a second, please, for the amendment? Councillor Dominic. So councillor Bronwyn Petrie, you happy with the wording there? And councillor McNish, you have the second of the amendment? I'm taking that councillor Petrie, sorry. No, dealing with the amendment. Councillor Peters, you were the second to do with number 4. Now we're moving an amendment in number 4.
Oh, okay.
So councillor McNish, fair enough, Dominic, I'll go back to you. Councillor McNish, with respect. Councillor Peters, there's been an amendment moved to take out that notwithstanding the growing impact on council per item. Correct, councillor Bronwyn Petrie?
Yes.
You happy with that, to still support that as an amendment? Okay. Yes, councillor Bronwyn Petrie's moved that. Sorry, councillor. Yes, question?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How do we prove or disprove that it's impacting on council or whether it's not?
Fair question, but I don't know, it's notwithstanding the growing impact on council per item. Well, the growing impact would be the staff that need to go out and inspect these. Andre, you want to come in on that? To answer your question, councillor.
Yeah.
Just
a second, if I may.
Yeah.
That money is not forthcoming. Is the money going to have to come from someone else or somebody else going to do that? That's my other.
No, fair question. Andre, thank you.
I put that comment in there, notwithstanding the growing impact on council per item B, because I wanted to highlight to councillors and to the community that there is a growing impact on A, the number of grids that are growing in Shire. Number 2, as things get older, they need to be repaired. And number 3, right, if people actually start to do the right thing and comply with legislation. At the end of the day, these things need to be checked out, and whilst I hear the council sort of saying that, yes, look, we just sort of dovetail that in with other inspections, the reality is, I suppose the community needs to know where they stand reasonably promptly, not 3 months later when you're going to go and sort of up in that area next sort of thing. So at the end of the day, there is a growing need to do these inspections, and you've got one person. Now that person's time can only be sliced and diced so many ways. If he's doing more of this work, he's doing less bridge inspections, for argument's sake, or checking out culverts that might be plugged up, or everything comes at a cost. So if I'm not going to impact on the other assets, I'm going to have to look at doing some overtime or bringing in some other staff. So everything has a cost.
Councillor, I'm going to go back, I'm going to deal with the amendment. Is it a question or right? Because I will need to deal with this amendment.
Well, it's a question that I'll put the question and I guess Andre will have to answer it. But we won't have to in some state. But how many landholders that own bridge, you're going to come in and pay $100 and that stuff you will fix up the grid anyway, and nothing will happen. It's always happened that way and will continue to do so.
So what you're saying, councillor, that the fees there was fucking hard.
They won't pay, no. They just fix the grid, like they've always done.
Okay, councillor, what's your suggestion?
Hang on, councillor. All right, order, please.
What's your
Well, the
suggestion?
scrap the thing is ridiculous. If I voted for this, I would be letting my rural ratepayers down. Simple as that. No, I'm not voting for it.
Andre, sorry, councillor Peters, Andre, I need for you to reply. Please give Andre to reply. Of course.
Okay, councillors, what you're venturing to is compliance. Right, we deal with compliance in a reasonable way for going forward. The aim of the exercise is A, to encourage people to comply with the law with the Section 138 process, right, and that's an education process. The other part of the exercise is to encourage, over time, a user pays principle, right? I've indicated that there's only so much resource. That resource can only be cut so many ways. There's going to be an increasing need and demand upon that person's time to go out and get and to check these things out. As long as council understands that, they can scrap the fee if they so wish, but sort of there's going to be an impact somewhere else. That's what I'm suggesting to you.
Okay.
On the amendment?
Councillor, just bear with me. So we're dealing with the amendment. Do you want to speak to the amendment?
Yep, to the crossing out of those words and to respond to councillor Murray.
Yep.
And we also have a responsibility to the travelling public, and Andre just said that we want to encourage people. Putting $100 fee is not going to encourage people to look over that 40-metre stretch, particularly when they shake and rattle their way on the council roads to get to the grid in the first place. So, on top of it, it is just nonsense to be charging people to fix up the fence and the gate next to the carriageway every time something happens there. So we, as noted in the council's report, there are proactive and reactive inspections. The proactive one is when the asset officer is doing their routine checking of our council roads, and I would be horrified if he only gets around our roads every 3 months. We don't have that many kilometres and so many days a week if you divide it. If they only get round our roads, our network of roads, once every 3 months, I would be asking what are they doing for the rest of their time. And the reactive response is, of course, if neighbours or someone complains and says there's something wrong with this grid. So it is not removing money that is already coming to council. This was a new fee that was slipped in that we were never advised of, and the only reason that we passed the budget at the time was because if we didn't pass the budget, we would have had no money to pay staff on the Monday. So I agreed, and other councillors agreed to pass the budget, but on the proviso that this was frozen because it was a new fee that was slipped in. It's not taking money from existing money that is already coming in. This is a totally new fee. It is a fee based on, I'm not sure what flight of fancy, but it is one that I think is most inappropriate, and that is why I want those words removed, because it is a new fee. The inspection should already be happening regularly, and certainly if it's only for 3 months, I'd like an answer as to why. And there's all those safeguards are there. we do want to encourage people to look after these areas, but putting a $100 fee on it is not going to achieve that.
Thank you, councillor. Councillors, what I'm going to do now is put the amendment. Just tidy things up. I take that, councillor, councillor Rogan. Are you speaking to do with the amendment?
If I could please,
Of course you can.
One is just wording on the amendment, and the other one is sort of an observation, I guess the question, if I could. Firstly, the question, it states here that, in regards to what Councillor Petrie said, that the inspections currently are funded by the council road maintenance budget. 600 bids, $100 is $60,000.
Correct.
It just seems like a lot of extra inspection time, if that's what it's called. And and I just can't understand and get out of the explanation here where that would be justified in pure time to inspect them, considering these roads have been inspected anyway. And in particular, if these extra inspections are after the result of remedial work, or repair works, I can't see that being $60,000 worth per year. And the second one is just on the wording. It's coming out of a maintenance fund. The wording is maintenance fee. Isn't it really an inspection fee?
Did you reply on that? No?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'll let council debate that
Right.
and provide a direction for us.
Right, Councillor Rogan, thanks for your comments. Council, we're going to put the amendment, just to tidy up the amendment. First off, with to accept 4, been moved by Councillor Gromit Petrie and second by Councillor Peters. And then we've had an amendment to do with 4. We're all aware of that. And that's also been moved by Councillor Gromit Petrie and seconded by Councillor Tom Peters.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
my
Councillor.
second.
No, you did. Then I went back to Councillor Peters to say a lot about, and he was happy to be in the amendment also. I'm sorry, Councillor McNish, I thought I explained that. That's why I've just gone through that so we're aware. But thank you. Okay, councillors, the amendment's there to number 4. All in favour? Against? I want to know that I'm against the amendment. Okay, now we put number 4, the amendment's up, obviously. All in favour of number 4? Against? Also wanted to know the against. Okay, councillors, we'll move on.
That means we don't be there, we'll be there for $100.
Sorry, councillor.
So hold on.
72, councillors. We'll move on to 72. GOV 66/17.
Just rolling into note that he was.
Of councillor, did you want to note that you were against, or are you just voting yes or no? You don't have to, it's just a question. If you want to. You don't? Good. Okay, we'll move on to page 72 in your hard copy. It's item GOV 66/17. Correction to water availability charge for non-residential users. Can I move in a second here, please? Councillor Mike Petrie, thank you. Seconded Councillor Murray, and I thank you. And I'll hand over to, welcome Andrew. I'll hand over to our acting manager of finance, Andrew, to present this report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors may recall, in July, this report was presented in relation to the non-residential water charges, specifically that normally there is a line within the revenue policy that states that there is a minimum charge for that, for the charging out to non-residential, so it's equal to the same as the residential availability charge. As a consequence of that, we put forward these water equalisation charges, which have now gone out to the public to seek submission. No submissions were received. Now this is been brought back to council for final approval. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Andrew. Councillors, the officer's recommendations. Any reports, Andrew, to do with this? No? All in favour of adopting? Against? Thank you. Councillors, page 74 in your hard copy. It's the it's item GOV 67/17, finance and accounts. Once again, can I have a move in a second to you to deal with this, please? Councillor Murray, thank you. Move. Seconded, Councillor Berry, thank you. And once again, I'll hand over to Andrew to present his report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As you can see before you is the listing of investments and as of the end of August. It's probably worth noting that we had a fair bit of money sitting in our general account at that point in time. That was mainly due to late receiving of a number of grants, and also it was the end of the rating period. So since then, a lot of that money has been pushed into short-term investments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Andrew. Councillors, questions to our finance manager? No? Officer's recommendations there. All in favour of receiving a note? Against? Carried. Page 76 in your hard copy. So item GOB 68/17 posted expenditure report. I've moved the second, please, to deal with this item. Councillor Berry, I thank you. Second, Mike Petrie, thank you. And once again, I hand over to Andrew to present this report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this is a report that outlines the progression of capital expenditure over the period up to the end of August. You will note that there are a number of items where they've been highlighted in red due to the carry forward budget not being allocated across those particular accounts. Those, as explained in the report, those adjustments will be put forward as part of the quarterly review for councillors to consider at that time. But the funds have been, these funds would otherwise have been carried forward from the last financial year to allow these projects to be completed.
Questions, Andrew, to do with the report, councillors?
No, just
Yep.
thanks for explaining.
Report the officer's recommendations there, councillors. All in favour of receiving note? Against? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, you move on to reports from delegates and committees. On page 79, your hard copy. It's item RC 14/17. This report that I drafted from the Country Mayors Association meeting held on the 11th of August. I'm happy to move that, being the author. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Sawyer, thank you. Councillors, I'm happy to take any questions to the report. No? Councillor Bromwell?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just wondered what the pilot programs were for 600 council staff have been trained in.
What they are?
What
To
is
do
it?
in emergency services. Fergus O'Connor, he's from Troy Grant's office, and he presented that report, and with the training programs, and there's councils lining up to take on these programs, and that's the way he presented it. So I'm sorry that that's a bit brief.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it was one program that everyone did, or do a variety of pilot programs that different councils did.
Nah, look, that it was mainly to do with emergency services, the way he presented it, councillor. But thanks for the question.
And
Yeah.
one about the Troy grant, about the day labour cost, what was that?
That goes back to with the emergency services to deal with what we're still waiting for them to come out with the fund for betterment, basically. But when we get, I only refer to flooding. So when we get to disaster flooding happen and the fixing of that with the betterment, meaning that we can make it better, build a bridge higher, take the road elsewhere, that's still not fixed up yet. Day labour costs are another thing. That day labour costs are compared with get the council to do it or getting the contractor to do it. So, and as we go on with the councillor, hopefully we'll see something common sense come out of that, so everybody can move on and get the thing fixed.
The final one was to doctors.
Yeah.
Are we looking to get together with other neighbouring shires to look at some of those recommendations here, the way we get additional medical service, including the one where they're saying a lot of doctors just want to do the walking or out, everything's supplied for them. So, I mean, here we're lucky we've got big private doctors, but one way there might be additional services we might want to show them.
And councillor, thanks for the question. The presentation from Richard was really good, and it was when he sit in the room and he got the mayors and GMs from all over the state sharing with the same issues that we're sharing with here. The main thing I wanted those reports to put in it because our outlying areas in time we're heading right now are suffering from having a permanent doctor. You raised a really good point, and it's something that needs to be fixed. You know, we keep, as a state government, they need to keep working with them to encourage country doctors to go out in those rural areas. So, as far as those things being presented to us down there, and having the knowledge of the other councils that are suffering from similar problems, that should add weight to the argument, that it's got to be fixed. I hope I've answered your question there. But all that brief in those documents was been tabled, Councillor Bromman. I thought that they're good. They refer to a lot of things what communities might be dealing with as far as organising the house and, dealing with his partner and a lot of the simple things that need to, as you go through. Yeah. Councillor Ford.
Yeah, just that one about the country university standards.
Yep.
Funding it along for 25 to 36. What precisely would a centre be? Where would they likely be set up? Can you give me an example of a town or location where one of those would be set up?
If I can go back a little bit, Councillor Forbes, with the presentation that Duncan gives us to do with this, Kermit to me is twice the size of Tenerife.
Sure.
And with the success they've had there after 3 to 4 years, it's 180 students at that. It was a disused TAFE building, let's say, that they got the funding to do. I want to put in there that there is funding available to do with these, setting up these universities across things. $8 million there from the state and 15 available from the feds to do these. TAFE's involved, so it's a good report. What they actually do there, I think there's several things they can do there. It's a university.
Yeah, no, what I'm trying to get at is the country university centre, is that actually a university? For instance, I would imagine something like University of New England.
Yep.
They've got a room up there above where they get the tape there for people doing courses, etc. You can go online, that's it. Is that the sort of thing they're referring to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So for repeating myself again, Councillor Forbes, they have that funding available there, and that we know. I hadn't heard anything about this until we had their presentation down there, which I think is fantastic.
Because I thought the universities themselves would be taking that on themselves to a certain extent,
Yeah, and a good point. But what encouraged everybody there was the fact that there's a distance with assistance is how they're referring to it. But there is a chance of setting these things up outside those regional centres. To answer what you've just said, like you're referring to, like an Armidale would be trying to have this stranglehold with this council. Yeah. Councillor Bromwell.
What do you mean there's an opportunity there to say, like Avonay College is now an extension of universities? Queensland. Queensland Uni. Would there be an opportunity for country towns to say set up things to specialise in one particular subject that people might be studying, and so instead of going to say Armidale, they would come to Tenterfield and do whatever that stream is?
Yeah, it could be. But hopefully, when we meet again, that there will be more information to do with that. Like each time that we have those meetings and that we get someone to present, you need to take something away from that. And they're very worthwhile. To do with the country mayors with the standard of presentation we get there. And hopefully, we'll bring in that information back enough. And I am briefing. I apologise for that, but with the notes I've taken, with the information we've been given, that's what I'm providing to the council.
Can I get some information on what happens at Finland?
Yeah. Of course I can. Thank you. Councillor,
Can I?
Murray. Yeah, I just had the pleasure. Thank you.
The one at Bingra, the one that's set up at
Yes.
Bingra.
Yes, learning centre.
Would that be similar?
It would be. It would be.
Must have been a huge success.
It has been a great success. Yeah. Okay, councillors, thanks for your questions and the reports there. All happy to receive a note. Councillor, carry. Councillors, we move on to page 81. It's to do with it's item RC 15/17 to do with the Henry Parks Memorial School of Arts Joint Community Management Committee, 17th August. Being the chairperson, I'm happy to move the report. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Sawyer, thank you. Councillors, any questions to do with the meeting? Councillor Bromwell.
So just regarding the difference in the changes to or potential changes to the museum layout, can you
Yes.
just elucidate a bit more on that?
What it is they've come up with that it's a time to look at that. There is funding available to appoint someone to look at that. So basically that's where it's at. There's no rip and pulling out and revamp.
And no preliminary recommendations.
Yeah, it's just how it is, and once again, it's only on the report that our Chief Economic Advisor, Harry Bolton, put that plan forward, and it's there, and I think we're waiting for, where that's going to go in the next little while. No more questions, councillors? All happy to receive a note? Page 85, councillors. It's item RC 16/17. It's Community Safety Precinct Committee meeting held at GI Glen Innes on the 6th of September. And the reports from me, so I'm happy to move that. Can I have a second, please? Councillor Berry, thank you. I'm happy to take any questions there, Councillor. Yes, Councillor.
Just a question there, Mr Mayor. The 2018 event will be held in Armidale. It's just supposed to be.
No, 17.
I was going to ask you what it was. We're applying for 29.
Repeat that. Just a typo.
Yeah, I thought it was, but I didn't know which way the typo went.
Yeah. Going down on Friday, councillors, to the Police Remembrance Day, so it is good that, you know, that after the conversation, I've spoken to them before about it. So I want to put that in the report that we can put in to have that in next year, and it's only about a bit of catering and a church, so I'm sure we can get that. It is a good event. No more questions, councillors? All happy to receive a note? Thank you. Councillors, move on to your last page in hard copies, page 86. It's to do with the council resolution register. It's item RES 8/17. If I can move in a second, please. Councillor Murray, thank you. Second to Councillor Rogan, and I thank you. And I'll hand over to Chief CEO Acting Polly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. So the resolution register is there for council's viewing. Happy to take any questions on it.
Any questions, councillors, to do with the council resolution register to Kylie? Councillor Troy, yes?
Thank you for highlighting in red. I think it's good to see the updates. And I thought it was quite interesting the opt-in on our figures in relation to the amount of waste. That was all. I was just saying thank you. I think that's my red.
It has been well received, the council resolution register, and so I was picking the document up and reading, it keeps us as councillors informed, so it's all good stuff. Any other questions to council, to Colin? No? All happy to receive a note? Yes, carried. Councillors, that's the end of our reports from delegates and committees. There's no notices of motions, no confidential. I'll close the meeting. The meeting is ended in peace and harmony. Thank you very much.